And good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome, Excel, and welcome, Mo. Um, Greetings, cheers, and audio's coming through. Sounds good. Okay, welcome to August 1st, Friday, August 1st, 2025. It's been an adventure. Thank you, July. It was fun. And let's get started. What are you working on? What fun Business Central antics have you encountered in the last week? I have encountered a few. They're continuations of prior weeks and always learning. And I don't know about you, but the common theme in my life for the last, how long have I been doing this? 20 plus years, well over 20 years, is there is absolutely no way any one person can know everything about ERP, consulting software, whatever. There's just way too much. You can be pretty good in lots of areas. You can be an expert in a few areas, but the wider it gets, there's just no way. Like, I don't know. Let me get some AC going here. I have met someone who claims that they knew Exapta and Navision and Dynamics GP inside and out. And I'm sorry, I don't believe that. So what crazy adventures have you encountered lately? And that's my cat. He's kind of a pain in the butt, but he's our cat. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do, right? The weekend. So 2 years ago, I bought this fancy pants coffee grinder for espresso, and it was expensive. It's a Eureka Mignon Zero, and I thought it was pretty fancy. Well, turns out that I'm learning why high-end coffee grinders are so expensive. And while this one is not bad, as little as, say, 10, 20 microns of calibration malalignment, misadjustment, maladjustment, whatever you want to call it, improper calibration by as little as 20 microns can affect how the thing works. And it can be the difference between it being great, passable, or barely usable. And I have learned that this expensive coffee grinder is passable for certain situations, but there is a calibration issue that prevents it from being usable for more serious situations. And yeah, so after 2 years, I realized that because I bought a second one for another use. That second one is much better. It is striking how different it is. And they clearly made a few minor changes to the machine. And anyway, my second one is much better aligned, much better calibrated. I tried to fix the first one, and I don't know if it's possible. I don't have the experience to do it. I tried, don't know that I improved it, but yeah, that was interesting. So always learning. So if you consider a $500 espresso coffee grinder expensive, well, I can tell you it's a crapshoot at $500 or less. And I'm not about to spend $1,000 on a coffee grinder. So I just got to live with what I can afford. So that was an interesting lesson. And my daughter actually took that apart and learned the process as well. Unfortunately, I don't have the tools, knowledge, skills to make it any better at this point. So then we went to a Korean tofu place. And if you are not familiar with Korean Soon tofu, you're missing out. It is good stuff. It is served in a flaming hot boiling stone cauldron that splatters all over you when it's served at the table. I do not know how the restaurants and servers do it. It is the scariest thing in the world when that comes out boiling on this stone bowl. And of course, you have all the little side dishes, which are always fun and tasty. So that was a good dinner. And week or two ago, my cat has a nemesis in our neighborhood. It is a mean stray cat in our neighborhood. And this is a big male bully cat who will come up to my cat when my cat's just sitting in a window and go after my cat. Well, turns out my cat wasn't having it. So my cat punched a hole clean through the screen on the window and launched at this cat outside. And that's I have video. I have a video camera that caught it, and you see this cat coming after my cat from the outside. My cat freaked out, just launched straight through the screen. It's kind of like a Wile E. Coyote, Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner cartoon. And so my cat punched a hole through the screen. It was on its last days, but punched a hole and went after the cat. It was welcome to my life. So what did I get to do? After a couple of weeks of being nagged by my wife to fix it, I finally fixed it. And not my favorite job, not the hardest job in the world, but right up there with repairing sprinklers is fixing window screens. Not hard, just, got to get the stuff out, got to sit on the ground, fix it. I had the spline roller, I had the screen, I was able to reuse the spline. So I've got my skills that my dad taught me. So I replaced both window screens. They were overdue. So yeah, now we have new screens and the cat hopefully won't punch a hole through it this time. So that was my weekend. So this week we did more work on Continia document capture, and Ronald has mastered. He's now navigated the process of the document capture and registration process, and he's now moving on to the approval workflow and what are our options there, how does it work, and we're trying to figure out what the customer is going to want, and we had a surprise with a call there. I think I talk about that more a little later. And BC Partners. I don't know about you, but I'm a little puzzled by how this is shaken out in the United States. We have lots of relationships with BC Partners, and I'm just kind of puzzled at what's going on, and more on that. Field name changes, good times, also related to BC Partners. Importing from Excel. I don't know if I have a full slide on that, but interesting learning there. Franklin is digging into how to import an Excel file, and I'm kind of surprised by what we're finding with the Excel buffer and the limitations. It's like, So maybe there's something we're missing there. And SonicWall CSE and Capture Client. My cybersecurity intern did a little testing on that, as did I, and we're learning the pros and cons of that, how to configure it, potential limitations. We're not sure. We don't know it well enough yet. And being a practice manager, for lack of a better term, managing a team, whatever you want to call it, it is a completely different skill, right? You can be an ERP functional consultant. You can be an ERP technical consultant. You can be a developer. Managing a team and then practice manager and just all the different things that come with that. It is a juggling act. So on Monday, did a little digging on BC telemetry because last week we enabled telemetry for a customer who says they're encountering an issue, some type of performance issue. And so we finally got BC telemetry enabled for them. I said, okay, well, let me poke around the BC telemetry app that the Power BI app that I believe Kenny developed. And I'm poking around this report like it's pretty, it has tons of information, but I don't know that it answers the questions that I have or helps me find what I'm looking for. And I'm still trying to figure out how to use it, but we're poking around and I'm like, yeah, I see that there was 3,000 API calls. That's not the issue. And turns out, I learned, it's like, okay, these API calls were occurring roughly 1,000 a day. And it looks like some SaaS integration, the Stamply integration is calling BC every 90 seconds. And you're like, well, 1,000 a day, wow. But when you break it down, it's not that much. It's not a big deal. And it's highly unlikely to cause any performance issue and is definitely not related to the performance issues that this customer is reporting. So like it's needle in a haystack going through the entire Power BI app, trying to find what's going on and what the cause is. Now, we did find some more relevant indicators in the Power BI app, but it's like, okay, yeah, I think that's what we're looking at, but it didn't really take us the next step of what's going on there, what are the specific details of that issue. And maybe that's just the point. Maybe it gets you to a certain point. At that point, you grab the KQL and you go run with that and you dig further. And if that's the case, maybe I've just learned what I needed to know. And so, not really finding the details I wanted in the report, I did a trace based off of the user ID. Instantly saw some of these symptoms that they were reporting. And so we have session terminated messages and operation exceeded on an AL method. Those are kind of the two things that seem to be consistent for this particular customer. So you see in the screenshot there, you see that the AL method ran for 36 seconds, over 36 seconds. It's a bit excessive in theory, without knowing the context. And then that's resulting in the nav session terminated, apparently. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And so, yeah, that was interesting. And so we're kind of delving into trying to identify a specific problem based on symptoms that a user is reporting. And these users have been awesome. They are reporting the user, a timestamp, and the details of what they were doing and the message that they got. And so twice now we've been able to just home right in on the problem. And I've given that information that I have, I've realized that I don't know that the Power BI telemetry report is helpful because I already have the detail I need to jump straight to KQL, do user, date, time range, boom, I instantly see the symptoms that they are reporting. I don't know why they're occurring, but we're going to the next step. We're going to see exact steps of what they're performing, see which report is causing this problem. Is it an option? Is it a filtering? What's going on? So Tuesday, Martes, I booked a flight. I booked my next flight to El Salvador in August, and this is, I'm pretty sure, by far the cheapest flight I have booked. And a couple factors here, but I've never flown in August before. August and September and perhaps October seem to be very cheap. It's the end of rainy season, so it is not peak season. I've only previously gone in peak season, by and large. So this is definitely off peak. And so the flight prices on Avianca are just dramatically less. So one flight, they advertise $99.50, but that's no seat, no luggage, like, one carry-on, and it's kind of has some hassle. So $149 for the classic fare. And I previously have not used classic fare. their middle tier fare because it's non-refundable, non-changeable. I was like, okay, well, say $50 at least on each leg. So that was a good deal. And I got a flight for $384 total. And that's a round trip from LA to El Salvador. That is pretty remarkable. And I'm able to do that because I am now a gold elite something life miles status. And so I can now get extra bags for free. The slightly better seat, which is a euphemism, it is very, very slightly better. Slightly better seat is automatically included when I book. So I don't even have to pay for it. I don't need to request it. I don't need to choose it. It's fully automatic. So I'm navigating this fancy pants airline miles program stuff I'm not used to. So $384. I can have 3 checked bags, I believe. I got the seat upgrade. I can recline. That's about it. I get lounge access, expedited check-in, the whole bit. So pretty nice to start to finally be able to leverage this after 2 years of flying there. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And side note, I a year or two ago bought this Ryobi electric mower for the Utah house to just have to clean up the lawn. And I got an email from Ryobi, or the contract manufacturer, I believe, that manufactures it, that they had a recall, and apparently the thing will melt and light on fire. If you're familiar with the RTX 4090, I think, video cards, there's an issue where the connector for the video card would melt, like the entire connector and the wires just couldn't carry the current. If there is even the slightest thing wrong with that connector, the connections weren't solid, it would overheat and melt and the video card would be ruined. Based on the descriptions and the photos they provided, it sounds like similar issue here. All of that current is going through one connector to go to the motor or from the battery or whatever. And that connector is overheating and melting, and the wiring is smoking, and it's a goner. So they issued a full recall for that model of mower, several models. And so I entered the serial number, and we basically have to cut the wires off, send them a photo of this, destroyed mower, and then they will send a brand new one. So we have to go through this whole verification process. It's kind of the opposite of proof of life, proof of death, and we get a replacement mower. So you're like, oh, neat, replacement mower. But no, really, I don't really want the replacement mower. I'd rather just have one that works. So yeah, that is underway. And on random note, Tuesday, I happened to see this article on Slashdot. Apple shift turns India into world's top maker of US smartphones. Now, I was kind of surprised by this. I knew that Apple was building manufacturing facilities in India. I had forgotten how long ago it was. Apparently, it's 5 or 6 years ago they started to invest in India. And as part of their supply chain diversification, and I think India has imposed regulations to restrict imports. I know certainly of laptops. They pretty much banned laptop imports, if I recall correctly. So it has to be produced domestically. I don't know if the same is true of smartphones, but Apple diversified away from Taiwan, Hong Kong, China, wherever they were manufactured. And apparently now they are shipping out of India. Now, I don't know that they've decreased their China manufacturing capacity. They may just be reallocating inventory. They brought India online, and now they're shipping from India to US to deal with the whole tariffs and other supply chain challenges. But I was really surprised. And from what I read, India really only ramped up with the top of the line latest models in 2022, 2023. So in a matter of 2 years, they're becoming the top supplier, whatever that means. 60% of all estimated shipments a year ago. Really interesting. Down to 25% for China. Now India's 44% of the market. Pretty remarkable, just like logistically coming online with that level of capacity, millions of units, and that really difficult manufacturing process in 2 years. Hats off to whoever pulled that off at Apple and the India team. And this is yet another public service announcement to be aware of what is called aka.ms/MFA setup. If you log into any Microsoft tenants, you will be familiar with the Microsoft Authenticator MFA app on your phone, and it does. Hopefully, you have the number matching push notification. And you will know, as I do, if you drop your phone into the ocean in a Central American country, you will realize what an absolute hassle it is to recover and deal with the lost MFA setup in Microsoft Authenticator. And you may say, Steve, oh, didn't you know you can back up and recover that in Microsoft Authenticator? And I will laugh, because if you've ever tried that, you will know it does not do what you think it does. It does not restore the authenticator codes. It simply restores the placeholder for the account that you used to have, and it says setup required, and it will not work. You have to reconfigure the multi-factor authentication for every single account. And trust me, it is not fun, especially when you have customer tenant access or whatever. It's a major hassle. You have to contact every customer and get reset. And you reset that by going into Entra, not Microsoft, not 365. You have to go into Azure, Entra, Users, Authentication Methods, and click Require Re-Register Multi-Factor Authentication. And it took 3 times, 2 people in our organization to reset that for one of our accounts. And so Tanya looked at it, Alyssa looked at it, and they're like, I don't see it. 3 times to dig into this and find where this was. And they said they finally found it. They finally reset it. And I was able to reconfigure my MFA. It is a hassle. Now, in order to reduce the hassle, you may or may not have the option to add additional security info to your Microsoft security configuration for each account. You have to do this with every single Microsoft login that you have. You may be a normal person with 1, maybe 2. As a consultant, a partner, I have about 15. Very annoying. So you can add, under MFA setup, you can add a phone backup method for SMS backup, and you could say, Steve, that's not secure. Well, getting locked out is no fun, so I don't have much choice. So I added a phone backup for SMS. I have MFA on multiple devices now. I don't even know if these are valid anymore, but iPhone 15, iPhone 13, a second iPhone 13, an iPad Air. I'm like, I'm tired of this. I need belt and suspenders. I'm sick of getting locked out. So you can do Microsoft Authenticator on multiple devices. You just have to go in here, add sign-in method, and register and scan the QR for that second or third or fourth device. And you can also add a TOTP code. So on some accounts, I have added a TOTP separate from the Microsoft Authenticator. This lets me use, you could use Google Auth, you could use your password manager, you could use the Cisco Meraki one, you could use any number of third-party authentication services. And that allows you to have the one-time password code. This is a little different, and some tenants may not allow this, but in this case, I added the TOTP with my password manager as a backup. And in order to do that, you go in, add a sign-in method, choose Microsoft Authenticator. It's very misleading, and you have to choose this option. I want to use a different authenticator app. Highly, highly recommend doing this, or at least add backup authentication methods, of course, if your organization allows it. Okay. On to coffee number 2. Coffee number 1 was a Tanzania Peaberry from a roaster in Las Vegas. So that's interesting, pretty good. Coffee number 2 is the Torgos from Good Beans, El Salvador. Very different, interesting. So, moving on to Wednesday. Wednesday, miércoles, more Business Central Application Insights telemetry. And now that I was a little more oriented, I dug into the operation exceeded time threshold AL method, long running operation. This like RT0018. And we found that it is the AL method called mark and filter rows on find object ID 490 on the account schedules. So when the customer is trying to run their account schedules, financial reports, and BC, it is consistently taking 20 to 30 or more seconds for something to occur, and they're getting please wait or connection lost, let me reconnect you, whatever that message is, and they're not happy about it. So we now have telemetry captured on this, and I need to figure out exactly when this is occurring. Is it after they choose their options and collect run and it grabs the data and it's trying to display? That's kind of what it feels it's like. Like it's got the data back and it's having to filter it is my guess, but I could be wrong. Maybe there's a report options window and that's what's taking so long. So I need to have a call with the customer and see exactly which step this occurs on and determine if it's always occurring or if this occurs, 1 out of 10 times during the day. Not sure yet. And on Wednesday, I did more testing with the SonicWall Cloud Secure Edge. This is like a VPN SaaS, VPN as a service, virtual VPN app, whatever you want to call it. And this is to replace the VPN appliance and VPN client that I've been using with SonicWall. And one of the interesting benefits of this, other than being able to VPN into my network, is you can set up a separate profile or what they call a service tunnel that routes all traffic through the VPN. If you're familiar with VPN clients, you know that sometimes you can route your internal network traffic through your VPN and all external traffic just goes through the user's normal internet connection. Well, there's usually an option to route all traffic through the VPN 100%, so nothing goes through the user's local connection. And this was a test of trying that, and I need to do more research, but when I set up this US VPN and told it to route all traffic through the CSE client, we were able to test this through El Salvador and get traffic to show up or the IP address to show up through Oregon. Now, I got Oregon, Ronald got like North Carolina or something like that, somewhere on the East Coast. So it's kind of random. And I believe the Cloud Secure Edge is using Google data centers. So that's why it's popping out of various Google data centers. And while this is a good first step, it's not good enough, but because I've noticed that some services detect this, because you're coming out of a Google data center, it's a higher risk profile than if it's coming through our internet connection in my firewall. So next step is to see if I can route this traffic through my firewall. So when Ronald gets a Cloud Secure Edge connection to our VPN, I want to route the traffic through a selective firewall, whether that's mine in California, ours in Utah, different place, whatever. That's the next step. So I need to talk to SonicWall and see if that's possible. Ted says, use page scripting, capture what they do so you can replay. Yes, that is one option, but I also need to know exactly when this is occurring. So I need to talk to the user. I have an idea of what they're doing. We just need to see exactly when it's happening at what step. And we don't really need to reproduce it recurrently. So I thought of that, but I think it'll be a 5-minute phone call. They'll say it happens here and we'll know, and then we can investigate further. BC partner. I am asking the question, what does it even mean to be a BC partner these days? And maybe we're in a unique situation, but we help partners. We are not a typical Business Central partner that says we have customers and these are our customers and we help them and leave us alone. Other BC partners don't talk to our customers. We're a little different in that we work with customers. we work with partners, we work with ISVs. And if this partner says, hey, we have an implementation, can you help us? We say, sure. We don't want your customer. We're not going to steal your customer. We're not going to steal any of your customers. Another partner comes along and says, hey, we need a support assistance here. Sure. We need a PTE. No problem. We need help implementing this ISV solution. Okay, we'll do that for you, partner, and we'll work under you, through you, with your customer. We don't care. We also work with ISVs. The ISV says, hey, we've got a 4-week backlog. Can you help us implement for these 3 customers? Sure. We'll staff up and do that implementation for you. Now, what's interesting is we're now having relationships with partners who say, I am a BC partner, quotation marks. I have no employees. I just want to sell. And I'm like, okay. And they say, I want to hand you this BC customer, this implementation, go. I will have prospected it, validated it, quoted it, and I'll involve you in the quote process, and I'll sell it. I just want to hand it to you. I never want to hear from you again. And we're like, wait, what? You just want to hand us work and that's it. And we'll bill through you or we'll bill direct, whatever. And we're encountering several scenarios like this. And I don't recall this really happening in the GP world. It happened a little, but it wasn't as common, my impression. This seems to be much more common. And scenario is a customer used BC partner A. And that BC partner had a developer. And we have since learned that that developer apparently did not use object affixes. And affix meaning a prefix or a suffix on the object name. And we know this because the customer's environment will not upgrade due to an object name conflict. Be seen now as an object of that same name. 3 years later, it will not upgrade. So they made that what some might say would be a rookie mistake. I don't know what the situation is. We don't have the code, so that's our guess. Well, I'm also speculating they don't have pipelines. They certainly don't have automated build pipelines on next minor, next major. Otherwise, they would have seen this coming 6 months ago. And you might say, well, maybe they do, but they just didn't notify the customer. Well, there's no notifications going on for whatever reason. Maybe they just don't have a relationship with that customer. It seems they were not aware of that, but the customer apparently has moved on to partner B. And I say BC partner B in quotes because I don't know that this partner has any staff that knows BC, which is a little strange and a little challenging. We're helping the partner, but apparently this is one of those arrangements where they just bring us in whenever they need help with BC. Maybe they do something else. I don't know, but it makes for some awkward conversations when I'm having to explain things that the partner should presumably know. So it's a little weird. I'm adjusting. I'm okay with it as long as we're clear on that and we're not trying to pretend something that the customer is unaware of. But as far as I know, they have no developer and they have no consultants, which I don't know what that makes them in terms of a partner, but okay, we'll help. So we have this scenario where a PTE on version 25.5 cannot upgrade to version 26 because of this field name conflict. And I have no desire to fix this. It sounds like a hassle, and I'm familiar with the problem. I thought it is very, very difficult when you do not have an interim version in order to mark fields as obsoleted or deprecated. If you don't have an interim version to do that and transition to a new field and do an upgrade code unit, I thought it was very difficult to get through a minor to major upgrade successfully. Now, speaking to my developer, he says, well, I think that might just be for AppSource apps because we have run into a scary situation with AppSource apps and we have very limited latitude there. And maybe PTEs have more flexibility in dealing with that, what is it, Force Sync or whatever, but like I don't recall that. So we're having to refresh our memory on PTE upgrades of these breaking changes, so to speak. But it's not something I want to deal with. So I'm like, hey, if the customer's willing to work with partner A and have them fix their own problem, I'm all for that. The last thing I want to do is fix someone else's problem. But we may have to deal with it if the customer doesn't want to work with partner A anymore. So it's this weird scenario where customer doesn't have the code, partner B doesn't have the code, partner A has the code, and they said downloading source, nope. So classic scenario, we've talked about it for years. Here it is. Upgrade cannot occur until we resolve this. And I'm in the middle trying to navigate this in a politically sensitive way. And Ted says, yes, no single partner can do it. Most customers need to build a team. Yeah, and most of our customers have little to no resources. And even if they have IT resources, they don't want to deal with it. And in terms of BC partners who sell, sales job is to overpromise. Well, fortunately, these partners are not overpromising. They're bringing us on in the demo process, the sales process, the quoting process, statement of work. We build the project plan. We are 100% running the project, everything from day one prospect to demo to validation of requirements to statement of work, change requests, design, everything. We do it. They are just kind of the sales interface and they hand us the job. And it's like, okay, free sales, I'll take it. So it's fantastic. It's just I'm adjusting to this. I'm not quite used to this. And practice manager. Managing a team, whatever your scenario is. I was like, I'm juggling these things every single day now, and it's nonstop calls, one after another, where a situation presents itself or there's a question, and I'm having to sit there and orient, figure out what's going on, be brought up to speed, have the problem explained to me, and then figure out how we move forward. Can I fix the problem? Do I know a solution? And what it reminded me of is not that I'm a grandmaster, but these exhibition games where these chess grandmasters go into a big hall and they play 10, 20, 30, 50, 500 people simultaneously. They walk up to the chessboard, they take 2 seconds to analyze the situation, and then they move on. And they do this lightning fast. It's a speed round for them. And I suppose the vast majority of these games are just like amateur hour for them, right? And they're just blasting through them. And many of the players get knocked out. Many of the games they win in 2 moves. And it's crazy how fast this occurs. So go from 50 games to 20 in 3 moves. And then it's really the 20 that are remaining that matter. So I think this one is in Boston a couple years ago, big exhibition at a train station. And then this one, apparently a really young grandmaster. I don't know if there's different, like if there's a junior grandmaster or adult, but this young person was playing against hundreds of people and he's just blasting through this entire auditorium. Absolutely insane. And this is Bobby Fischer. Apparently, this is a 1964 game. He was 21 years old, playing against 50 people. And I think the thing, if I recall correctly, is Bobby Fischer might have been one of the early or recent American grandmasters. So this got a lot of attention in the US. He became famous in the US. And so this was an exhibition game with 50 people in 1964. And this is what my day feels like. Phone call. Team says, I have this. We go down the list. I try to deal with it. Then I jump on to subsequent calls where we drill into more detail. And I'm just like dizzy and tired by the end of those calls. I'm like, whoa, my head is spinning because we're going from RDLC report to some data entry issue, a posting issue, a support ticket, an AL question, a PTE problem, a BC upgrade version issue, telemetry issue, and emails and Continia, one thing after another, and every chessboard is different. And I'm having to be brought up to speed in 30 seconds, try to understand what's going on, try to offer input. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm done with this. What do I work on next? And I'm like, I, I don't know. Let's figure something out, right? So it could be as mundane as what's my next task. So that is my analogy for being a practice manager, project manager, team manager, whatever you want to call it. It is like walking between 50 different chessboards every day and having to figure it out from scratch and make the next move. And upcoming events, Proximos Eventos. Summit NA is October 20th through 23rd in Orlando, Florida. Directions EMEA is November 4th through 6th in Poland. And go to directionsforpartners.com to register for that. On Thursday, Jueves, Ronald and I had a call with the partner, BC partner and customer, where we are helping to implement Continia document capture. And we have worked with this partner before. We are learning to work with this customer, and we are responsible for being the Continia document capture experts for this partner. So we had a good call with the customer. We learned about their AP invoicing process, workflow, approval, you name it. And they're currently using a third-party, I don't know what you call it, AP automation solution with Dynamics GP. I am familiar with them, worked with them for years. They are transitioning over to Business Central and Continia document capture. So we learned that despite the potential opportunity to use their AP automation software to review and approve invoices in that system, they choose to use email. And we said, so how do you review and approve these invoices in your AP automation solution? They said, we don't. And we were puzzled. We said, what do you mean you don't? And they said, well, why would we do that when the branch manager just emails the AP manager and says, this invoice is approved to pay and here's the coding on it? And we were all just kind of stumped for a minute, like, wait, you do not want to use the AP automation workflow and approval process? And they're like, why would we? We just get an email and we check in, it makes sense, and we approve it. Like, okay, then. I guess they have not yet encountered AP fraud where someone sends a phishing email or fake email and impersonates someone, and an email comes in to pay a $35,000 invoice to, Window Washers Inc. That's a fake company. So we may eventually implement the workflow approval, but for now, apparently, they don't want to. So that was interesting. So Continia document capture looked pretty good compared to this other solution, I must say. We'll see how it goes in real life once they start looking at the scanned documents, but it's looking pretty good. And also, what is looking really good is that Continia document capture, not an ad, just Continia document capture is fully integrated into Business Central. It is not a external website that receives vendor invoices, does the OCR, and you have to code it and validate it and review and approve it on a third-party website. You do that in BC. And let me tell you, having seen the difference, huge. Why? Because with a customer's current process, they have to go to some website and they have to tediously enter the GL accounts, which, by the way, have to be synced with the accounting system, right? So they have to sync accounting system. They have to sync the vendors, the accounts. And if something's missing, they have to go back, set it up, and sync. Major hassle. And I'm watching the data entry in this third-party web-based AP automation system, and I'm thinking, this is painful. Whereas in Continia document capture, the vendor is right there in Business Central. If the vendor's not set up, Continia says, there's no vendor here, set it up. You set it up, it just appears. You link the invoice scan to the vendor. And when you review and approve the invoice, the purchase invoice lines are right there. If you want to distribute this $10,000 invoice among 50 different locations, departments, or expense accounts, guess what? You pull it up in Excel and you paste it into Business Central. Right now, it is a nightmare for them to do that, and they're having to do it in 2 different systems, 5 different steps with Continia right in Business Central. I think it's going to cut out over half of the steps that they do, and it looks much, much better. And I haven't implemented these frequently, but it's like, wow, it's looking pretty slick. So we copied some purchase invoice lines from BC into Excel. We instantly have our template, pasted it back into the purchase invoice. Boom. There's your distributions, as we call them from the GP world. Multiple expense accounts, multiple dimensions in BC. Beautiful. So I think it's going to work. We'll see what the customer says. So it's looking pretty good. And on a side note, I had to schedule a call with myself, someone else in the US. I think they're in Mountain Time somewhere, and then South Africa, and then India. And I had to propose some times for this. And I'm like, whoa. I mentioned this before, but I use a website called timeanddate.com. There are many others, but I've just found this one showed up on a bunch of times on search results. So I started using it. I pay a subscription, just a donation to them because it's so helpful to me. I use it all the time. And they have what's called a meeting planner. Welcome, Eric. Buenos dias. Sorry, brain's not working. So I use timeanddate.com, and I always jump there, go to the meeting scheduler. I choose the cities that I want to schedule, choose the date, and it says, hey, here are your options. And I see that in Los Angeles, looks like I cut it off. But for instance, if I wanted to have a call at 7 a.m. Los Angeles time, that would be 4 p.m. Johannesburg time and 7:30 p.m. India time. And I'm able to read across those and find a compatible time, or not find a compatible time if it's US, Europe, and India or China or whatever. So that's my go-to website for time zone conversions, and date. They have date calculators. So if you want to know what is 18 days from this date or 254 days from that date, they got you covered. So great website, timeanddate.com. Okay, and SonicWall Capture Client. I talked about the SonicWall Cloud Secure Edge that I'm using for the virtual VPN, which is looking pretty promising. We need to figure out a few things, but we're also testing the SonicWall Capture Client, and this is antivirus, aka EDR, aka endpoint protection, and it is basically a white-labeled version of SentinelOne. And the benefit is that it integrates with the SonicWall management portal ecosystem, so you manage your firewall, your VPN, your endpoint protection, all in one portal in theory. And it also applies policies, behavioral policies. So it's not just antivirus, it is traffic monitoring. You can restrict what content a user can go to. You can restrict whether the endpoint needs to have a hard drive encrypted, needs to be on the latest version. All of those endpoint policies you can enforce there. There are some limitations I'm seeing. So we currently use Cylance for endpoint protection, and Cylance has vastly more granular capability to that you can configure in terms of controlling the antivirus behaviors on the machine. However, one thing that I noticed that just popped up is I tried to launch my browser yesterday morning, and I got this message. I literally just got to my desk, launched the browser, that's it. And I got a SonicWall Capture Client that said, pornography is blocked by the Capture Client. I'm like, what? I just launched my browser. And it said that this website, fb.html-load.com, was blocked for the pornography rule. So I enabled certain rules to just see how this would behave. And I did not expect to see this morning. Now, I was like, well, HTML-load does not look like a typical adult website. So what is going on here? So I refreshed my browser, and sure enough, it said forbidden under the pornography rule set. And obviously, this rule set is not 100% accurate, so it's miscategorized. Maybe this is used on some adult websites, but this particular one was like, what is this? So, as far as I could tell, this appears to be a website scripting or website content obfuscation service. So someone, something, I mean, the FB in the name would potentially indicate Facebook, but I don't use Facebook. I don't launch Facebook on a browser when I start it up. I don't use anything Facebook. So I'm wondering if Facebook has installed some bug or something. Oh, Excel says I use the website all the time. Let me know. Is this you're talking about? HTML-load.com? Is that what you're talking about, Excel? Because I've never heard of this. And what is interesting is the Sonic Wall Capture client is blocking this. It detects it, and I'm not going to it directly. So it's an indirect reference that is being blocked. And what's also interesting is it's being blocked by the Capture client. I think I have the same policies on my firewall to block the same content. It is not being blocked there as far as I know. I need to go check. But interestingly, this is being blocked. So it works. It's interesting. It doesn't, Capture Client does not have the same level of granularity as far as we can tell. I apparently cannot block PowerShell at any level, which is interesting. And the big limitation we're finding so far is Capture Client does not allow you to have separate policies. So, for instance, I cannot have a knowledge worker policy versus a developer policy versus an IT admin policy. So that's one big limitation with the Capture Client. You install it, that's it. You have your high level, broad policies. And if it blocks something, you're out of luck. So next up, DynamicsCon Regionals, dynamicsusergroup.com meetup, regional meetups, Denver in August, Dublin, Ohio in August, Copenhagen in September, and Dallas in September. And make sure to double check those dates. And apparently we are having a team meeting, and I am running late. And Friday, Viernes, font trivia. Oh, Eric says, did you see the NuGet packages that got removed because there's a typo in a URL in a comment? So that URL pointed to a phishing site, resulted in thousands of packages failing. Interesting. So that is one problem with these content filterings, one mistake. And I mean, a phishing site blocking, that's probably legitimate, but interesting. Oh, so Excel clarified that he's talking about the Time and Date website. Yes, timeanddate.com. Awesome website. I love it. So font trivia on Friday. I set this up yesterday because the team in Berlin is doing different report layouts. And we had a discussion where a customer asked about changing the font. And they said, well, I don't get it, Steve. What is he asking for with this font? So I created a font primer to discuss the different types of fonts. The team in Berlin is not a font geek like me. Now, maybe this is just me, but if you grew up in the era of Windows 3.1 or earlier, one of the most exciting things you could do as a kid or a teenager, even as an adult, is go through the font list, right? And you do things, silly things with different font, the wingdings, and they didn't have webdings back then, let me tell you. Where I came from, we had a covered wagon and we had wingdings font. And so we go through and do the silly fonts, and the most exciting thing would be if we found a new font, right? It was amazing. And back to WordPerfect on the DOS command. That's what I know is WordPerfect and DOS. So I had to educate the team on fonts. And trivia question. What are these fonts? What is special about Courier and Consulus? What font category do they fall in? And then what font category do these fall in? What is the name for these fonts? Like, how do you describe these fonts? So we have three. We have Courier New and Consulus. That's one category, and they actually have two different characteristics. Then we have, say, Times New Roman, Garamond, and Georgia in another category. And then we have Arial, Calibri, Verdana, and Tahoma. Yeah, so Eric obviously guessed monospaced font. And then what is the word for Times New Roman, Garamond? What's the opposite of monospaced? There's a word for it. I had to learn it as well. I didn't know it off the top of my head, but now I know it. And then ultimate trivia question. Yes, serif and sans serif, but what is the difference between Courier New and Times New Roman? Like, so there's a word there. It's hard to say, but we figured it out. And the ultimate boss question. Which sans serif font, which absolutely industry standard famous sans serif font has never been included in Windows? Think about that. Absolutely famous font. Entire documentaries have been made on this one font. And so the answer is monospace font versus proportional font. Apparently that's the lingo. You have monospace or you have proportional, where the font spacing is proportional to the width of the character. Yes, correct. Eric got it. So which one sans serif font has never been included into Windows? And I guessed, and I looked it up, and it is because of licensing. That is a licensed font sold by a particular company, and therefore it has never been included in Windows, and Arial is the substitute for this font, which is a free version. So that is the cliffhanger trivia. Correct. Eric got it. Helvetica. Helvetica is the absolute OG boss of sans serif fonts. There is a documentary on the font called Helvetica. As geeky as that sounds, welcome to my world. And Helvetica has never been included in Windows. Summit NA roadshows: Madison in August, Nashville in August, Charlotte in September, Houston in December, and Fort Lauderdale in December. And moving on, excellence updates. Jocelyn fought with a check layout, and it's kind of funny. We go back and forth. I say, don't worry about the details. She worried about the details, did everything to match the customer's check. And then the feedback is, get rid of all that stuff. We don't care about all that stuff. All that stuff to match our old check, we don't care. Get rid of it. It's kind of fun. So yes, Eric, I am a fellow font geek. I was a young lad in Windows 3.1 testing every single font. Serif, sans serif, monospace, proportional, you name it. Jocelyn is also tackling the pick list. And if you say, oh, it's just a pick list, how hard can that be? Holy bananas. Crazy. Crazy. Pick lists in BC and what the customer's doing. We're going to go on an adventure. It's not going to be fun. So Jocelyn said, sure, I'll do the pick list. Little did she know, said the narrator. David is dealing with config packages and data migration of a very, very messy data migration of a crazy product list with crazy messy item attributes, full cleanup of thousands of items. He is regretting his life choices at this moment. And he's also dealing with other report layouts, including checks, which happen to have a monospace font. And he's like, Steve, what is this noise? What is going on? And that's why we're talking about fonts. Ronald is rocking Continua document capture. He is doing awesome, and we are implementing that at the new customer. So that is good. And Franklin is learning about Excel workbook imports, which is an entire rabbit hole. And we're just like, wait, what? So apparently the Excel table buffer, whatever that's called, cannot read the number of Excel worksheets. It cannot use, apparently, ordinal reference to Excel worksheets. You have to have the worksheet name. Is that right? And then I go to configuration packages. It can count the number of worksheets, but it's using a .NET helper library. So Eric, I know, knows the answer to this, and I am looking for how to read an arbitrary number of worksheets in an Excel workbook. I want to count how many there are. I'd love to know the name of the worksheet, but as a fallback, I'm okay with ordinal references, but Yes, I'd like to have full mastery of importing an Excel workbook with an arbitrary number of Excel worksheets. So I may bug you, Eric. Yeah, use Eric's toolbox to work with Excel, right? Yes. He's got a product for that, right? I'm sure that's the answer. Anyway, on to Berlin updates. 110 plus 215 plus 57 equals 382. And what is the question for this answer equation in equation format? So the Excel buffer table has a function that can read the sheet information before opening. Interesting. I will look into that. It's reading the sheet information. We'd love to read the worksheet name. Apparently that may be a stretch, but we'll look into reading the worksheet. But you kind of have to know what you're reading in advance, which I'm not used to from the .NET world. I want to go into this blind and interrogate everything, get all the metadata and know what I'm working with, but it seems like there's some limitations there. So what is the question to the answer 382? The question is, what are two virtually brand new ThinkPad T470s purchased off of eBay for Berlin? And one of these is literally like, I do not see a mark on it. The keys are unused. The touchpad is unused. It is immaculate condition. The second one, it's a little worn, but it's perfectly fine. It's much better than the others I purchased. So one was $110. The other was $215. Both i7s with 16 gigs of RAM. And the $57 was for 3 new batteries, 1 internal and 2 external replacement batteries to get these things up to peak operating condition, tip-top shape, and they're ready to go. 2 effectively brand new laptops for Berlin. These will be for the E4CC English students, loaners, whatever, extras in the office. They work perfectly fine. $382 for fully refurbished, ready to go, awesome battle tank Salvadoran certified laptops that have survived the craziest stuff in the world, from chunks of dog hair to the ocean salt to 90-degree humidity that would just absolutely kill anything else. And Eric says it's the Excel buffer.get sheets name list from Stream. Sir, I don't think you like coffee, but I would send you some coffee. So let me screenshot that and grab that. And thank you very much, Eric. Yeah, maybe I'll get you some other souvenir if you do not drink coffee. Thank you, sir. Muchas gracias. I shall get Franklin on that. And Q&A. I got to wrap up because I'm late if the call is still going on. And this was the random reading department. I purchased a book called Of Monsters and Mainframes about future space travel, where there's transport ships in space and there is a Dracula vampire on a spaceship. It is kind of a tongue-in-cheek, humorous thing with AIs and vampires and people dying on spaceships, and it's a murder mystery. But yes, that should be good. I have started reading that. And I saw there's a book on Audible called Backyard Spaceship. The subsequent, like, I don't know, number 5, 7, whatever, was highly rated. So I always go back and try to start at number 1, which I believe is free on Audible. So I'm listening to that, and pretty clever, pretty fun, just getting into that. And then one that popped up as a recommendation on Audible is called Flybot. And if you've never heard or listened to Dennis E. Taylor books, they are awesome. Hey, look at this, then read Flybot. So Dennis E. Taylor has an amazing line called the Bobaverse, the Bobs, the Bobs. Awesome. I absolutely love the Bobs. And so when I saw Dennis E. Taylor with the same narrator as the Bobs, and I'm listening to Flybot now, and that is hilarious. Eric has already listened to it, and it is great. It is future AI, AGI, run amok, and absolutely crazy. So I'm just listening to that now. And so, yes, Dennis E. Taylor is phenomenal. And I think it's Ray something is the narrator. Fantastic books on Audible. So And with that, I leave you with a quote just popped into my feed randomly. The entire point of life is to take chances on dreams that seem crazy to most, but feel like destiny to you. Welcome to the last 2 years of my life. And with that, we wrap up. Que tengas un buen fin de semana. Adios. Talk to you later.
Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above.